So self-sabotage and manifestation. Sabotage, to me, I kind of see it as the part of us that thinks that keeping us in the familiar is actually safer than going into the new level of self. It's like, I know this stuckness, I don't know that next level, even though I consciously really want it. I'm gonna kind of get in my own way and prevent myself from that manifestation or taking that action I know I need to take.
I love to look at things through the lens of all behavior makes sense. If any time you have any behavior that you're like, why am I doing this and feeling so much shame? Even the most radical of behaviors, all behavior makes sense. And so to start with like curiosity, to get really compassionately curious if you're going, oh my gosh, I just kind of know this is me. So what self-sabotage is it's a defense mechanism. It's a coping mechanism that's rooted in low self-worth, and it serves to protect us from vulnerability. If we want to help somebody in their vulnerability, like this is where all the inner child stuff comes in. Somebody that has good sense of self, they have a good self-concept, they have internalized felt safety, they have a deep confidence, they can go, you know what, I'm gonna go on this podcast. Maybe I say something stupid, but you know what, I'm not stupid. You know, I know I'm worthy, I know whatever, and I messed up there, but oh well. They're able to they have some resiliency to their system, right? They have some resiliency to be able to put themselves out there, whatever the situation may be. And that's where, even though someone's in their adult self, their inner child, this is where you always hear your inner child's running the show, because the inner child doesn't feel secure. They don't feel confident. Like imposter syndrome kind of stuff. Like they know that they are very okay, I have the degrees, I have the trainings, I have the things, but yet their inner child doesn't match up what their training is.
You're saying that the key into beginning to get out of the pattern of self-sabotaging is you have to address all of the things that make you feel vulnerable and scary and go in and do that unblocking to bring the healing of secure and feeling confident in those situations.
Yeah.
And on a manifestation standpoint, this is so important because, like you said it, Jessica, pre this episode, this is a lot of people's hang-up, self-sabotage in this work. And then they can get frustrated in this work because they're like, why am I not manifesting? Or get really down on themselves when they're aware of why they're not. And it sounds like we're talking about a spectrum here, but kind of talking about sort of the everyday self-sabotaging, which I tend to see when I worked with people. It was a lot of running into the fire, a lot of settling for the person who can't give you what you want because, you're like, well, maybe this is better than nothing. In career, it was really wanting to chase something, but not, like you're saying, being very afraid of the vulnerability of rejection or failure or whatever, and not being able to go after it. So just kind of talking about that, the everyday person of that spectrum, what do we do here? It's hard. You're walking through an online membership that if you're not ready to get on it, like fully honest and secure, it could take a while, if you're not ready to fully go there. So I want to find that pivotal thing we can say that gives the person who's stuck in this the licensing to take the first, second, and third step to actually shifting that behavior and manifesting.
Here's my thoughts here. One, these are more everyday things of self-sabotaging. Repeating patterns we don't like, procrastinating, lack of action, controlling, perfectionism, creating conflict, not asking for help or helplessness, victimizing yourself or having a victim mindset, negative self-talk, or even just recognizing when you think about having your manifestation, does a part of you fear that coming through? There's a self-sabotaging block there. See that fear as a self-sabotaging part that's going to pop up and test you again and again and again to either go back to the old patterns or step through new ones. And so my thoughts on the action part of it is you are ready to work through what you are being tested in right now.
Find your vulnerability. What's the worst case scenario? My favorite exercise. Because that's going to highlight your fear, your biggest fear, your vulnerability, and tackling that in this unblocking challenge, like you're saying. So to me, it sounds like between what you're saying, Janelle, and what you're saying, Jessica, it's number one, you have to find what your biggest fear is, what your vulnerability is. And then you need to sit with it with compassion. You really need to give it that space and that time instead of the judgment or the anger or the resentment about it. And then really taking it through the healing process to go from vulnerable vulnerable to secure. Does that seem like the sort of 3 steps of, if you're on the spectrum of just like everyday self-sabotage, not the really extreme, trauma you're working through, that those 3 steps are going to start to help you alleviate self-sabotaging and what you're calling in and manifesting?